coming in on a plane the other day, which is generally the way I fly. And I was seated next to an old boy. Couldn't help but notice he had his wedding band on the index finger of his left hand. Now, to say the least, that's a little unusual, and so I just commented on it. I said, friend, I can't help but notice you got your wedding band on the wrong finger. And he said, yeah, I married the wrong woman. Well, I don't know if that old boy married the wrong woman or not, but I do know that an awful lot of people have a lot of wrong ideas about what it takes to sell more Ford cars, what it takes to be more successful in life, what it takes to get more out of life. See, I don't think life is easy. Whether you're the newest salesperson Ford's got, or whether you've been with Ford 40 years or 50 years as a salesperson, I want to say to you that it's not going to get any easier. It'll get to be more fun. You'll become more professional at it. You'll do a lot of things. But life itself is tough. When I started my exercise program, it was not fun. I weighed well over 200 pounds, and I used to get so irritated at joggers. How many of you, now tell me the truth, how many of you hate joggers? Can I see your hands? I mean, I never, the first 10 months or 9 months I ran, I never saw a sane jogger. Every time I saw one, he's always jumping up and down and said, man, you feel so good, it made so much fun. And you know, they were a bunch of crazy people as far as I was concerned, because I was hating and hurting every single step I took. I mean, it was hurting, but I was determined, and it took me 9 months. But I never will forget, beautiful spring day, Portland, Oregon. It was high noon. I had a 4 o'clock seminar that afternoon. And as I was jogging on the campus there, a lot of the kids, the students were there. Some were reading, some were studying, some were snoozing, some were recording. And here comes old Ziglar running by. Sweat running down my back, sweat running down my legs. And that day, all of a sudden, it hit me like a ton of bricks. But I was having a marvelous time. A marvelous time. When I started exercising to begin with, the first day I ran a block. That's one. I did better the next day. I ran a block and a mailbox. Up until then, my idea of exercise had been simply to fill the tub, take a bath, pull the plug, and fight the current. I mean, that had been it. I used to get out of breath running downstairs, if you know what I mean. The only thing I ever exercised until then was caution, and I did it carefully. And you know, that first day and the second and third, I hated every step. But then that beautiful breakthrough came in that city of Portland, Oregon that day. And since then, nearly 13 years, I have literally loved to jog. I mention that, ladies and gentlemen, because that day, for the first time, I realized you don't pay the price for good health. You enjoy the benefits of good health. You don't pay the price for a good marriage. You pay the price for a poor one. You enjoy the benefits of a good marriage. You don't pay the price to be successful in selling. You enjoy the benefits which go along with it. Not easy always. Matter of fact, seldom is. But it is so much easier and far more fun to be successful than it is to fail. See, life is not easy. Life's tough. But if you're tough on yourself, life is going to be infinitely easier on you. I well remember when our youngest daughter graduated from high school, and we went down to get her a car. Now, I'll have to confess, I've never sold automobiles personally. But if you were to ask me to describe a pretty fair prospect, I would describe it as being a daddy with a daughter who just graduated from high school. He publicly announces he's going to buy her a car. He's obviously in a hurry and apparently has the money to buy with. Now, I don't know how you'd rate him as a prospect, but I'd say that is a pretty fair prospect. Well, my daughter had not been to bed the night before. And the reason she had not been to bed the night before, she'd been up all night getting dressed. As we'd say down home, she had on her Sunday go-to-meeting best. I mean, this was a big event, a brand new car. I was working that day, so I was dressed approximately as I am today. We walked into the showroom there, and the young salesman had seen me, and I hasten to add, this was not a Ford dealership, all right? We walked, and I'm embarrassed about it, but she had made her choice at that moment. She said, let's go in there, Dad. And so we pulled in. The young salesman had obviously seen us part of the car, which was a nice car. And he came up to us, and although we gave no indication of being a charitable case, he offered charity. Can I help you? Well, we decided to turn the charity offer down because I was in a hurry. And as near as I can remember, here's exactly what I said. I said, yes, my daughter just graduated from high school, and we're going to get her a new car as a graduation present. He looked at me and looked at her and said, well, if you see anything you like, let me know. And he turned around and walked away. I thought that was pretty bad till I got to the next place. Same words, but this fella, ladies and gentlemen, this fella had B.O. Third place, almost as bad. The fourth place, we got lucky because my daughter had dated the salesman. And so we had a connection with the dealer, and we were able to buy a car in short order. But that's the first day I understood two things for the first time. I understood why we were having a recession. We couldn't get waited on. And I understood what the prospect means when they walk in and say, we're just looking. When they walk in and say, we're just looking, believe me, they are desperately looking for a salesperson to sell them something so they don't have to keep on looking. That's what I'm saying. The truth is, when the man and his wife or the man or the woman walk in your dealership, they've come in because they want a solution to a problem which they have or a desire which they have. Now with 40, if we can recognize basically that we need to solve their problem and that as individuals that we can get everything in life we want, if we'll just help them get what they want, which is a beautiful solution to a transportation problem or a transportation desire, then as salespeople, we get the profit we wish because we have helped them get the answer to the problem they had or the desire they had. If you want to change the output in your life, you've got to change the input in your life. It really is about that simple. You see, you can not only hear something 10,000 times, you can memorize things verbatim and not have any idea what they mean, the significance of it. You can even see something, not just 10,000 times. You can actually look at something 50,000 times and still not really see what's there. Now, that's a pretty strong statement. I don't like to make statements unless I make every effort to document them, to verify them, to prove them. So let's see if we can do that. How many of you folks wear a wristwatch? Can I see your hands? Okay, now, don't look at them. Let me repeat that. Don't look at your wristwatch. According to the experts, the average American looks at his wristwatch 300 times a day. Now, I didn't believe that either when I first learned it. And then about 2 years ago, I broke the band on my wristwatch. And I can tell you that it was 2 days before I could get to the jeweler, and that wristwatch was in my pocket. And guess what I did for the next 2 days? About 4,000 times, I was there looking at my watch. I was absolutely astonished at the amazing number of times I was looking at it. Take my word for it, folks. You absolutely will look at that wristwatch at least 300 times a day. Now, that means if you've had your wristwatch a year, you've looked at it at least 10,000 times. How many of you have had your wristwatch at least a year? Can I see your hands? How many of you are already getting a little nervous that I'm fixing to ask you something you don't know about it? Can I say? Okay. How many of you have had your wristwatch 50,000 times? I mean, had your wristwatch 5 years, I'm sorry. Now, if you've had it 5 years, that means you've looked at it 50,000 times. Now, theoretically, there's no way I can ask you a question about the face of that watch that you can't answer. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Now, don't dare look at it until I've asked all 3 of them. Don't answer out loud, and don't be a smart aleck and turn to your next door neighbor and tell them what the answer is. You're going to get your chance in just a moment, all right? Question number 1 is, answer to yourself now, does your watch have regular numerals or Roman numerals? How many of you are already in trouble? Okay. Question number 2, does it have numerals at all? Or are they dots, slashes, blanks, emblems, You name it. Now, question number 3 is really tough. Matter of fact, it's actually unfair because it has 4 parts and they're not multiple choice either, all right? Question number 1, what's at the 12 o'clock slot? What's at the 3 o'clock slot? What's at the 6 o'clock slot? And what's at the 9 o'clock slot? Now that you've answered those questions to yourself, I want you to carefully, as a matter of fact, I want you to very carefully look at your watch. Isn't that amazing? Now, how many of you folks who've had your wristwatch at least a year missed at least one of the questions? Can I see your hands, all right? How many of you folks who've had your wristwatch 5 years missed at least one of the questions? Can I see your hand? How many of you remember just a minute ago when I said to you, now I want you to carefully, as a matter of fact, I want you to very carefully look at your watch. How many of you remember me saying that to you just a few seconds ago? Okay, what time is it? We got to remember, as we think about that wristwatch, that that's the reason our dealer wants us in that sales meeting to go over the same thing we just went over yesterday and the day before and the day before. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I firmly believe that if you can look at your wristwatch 50,000 times and still not know what is there, there is a definite possibility that the new Tourist or the new Aerostar might have some more features about it that you do not quite understand, some more techniques, some more technology, and in order to communicate to that customer what we've really got, then what we've got to do is get the facts with the right attitude to communicate to the prospect.